Welcome to Focus on Abilities, a program about issues affecting the lives of people with disabilities. My name is Lex Frieden. I am professor of Health Information Sciences at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, and also Senior Vice President at TIRR Memorial Hospital. And today we have two very interesting guests for our program. I'll introduce them to you, but first I want to ask you a question, one that we'll answer before the end of the show. Question is this: what is the concept of self-determination as it relates to people with disabilities? Self-determination. We'll talk more about that before the end of the show, but now it's a pleasure for me to introduce our guests. We have with us today Mr. Ricky Broussard. Ricky, welcome to Focus on Abilities.
Thank you.
And Ms. Noreen Chalowhey. Noreen, thanks for being here today. Now, both of you have come. Ricky, where are you living now? In Galveston or?
Actually, I live in Houston. I live in a three bedroom apartment, and it's all wheelchair accessible. I've been living there now for 3 years, and but before I moved into my apartment, I used to live in large facilities just for people with disabilities.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, you've got your own business, right?
Yes, sir.
What's it called?
The name of my business is called Get a Life in Texas.
Get a Life in Texas.
Yes, sir.
And is it a profitable business yet, or a new business, or how's that going?
It's profitable. I've been in business since January of 2005.
Do you have your first dollar? A lot of people could.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't think to keep my first dollar.
All right. No, we'll talk more about that in a minute, too.
Yeah.
Noreen, your organization is Imagine Enterprises, correct?
Imagine Enterprises, that's correct. And it's a nonprofit that serves people with disabilities to support them in the community. Our major focus is employment supports, but we've also done a lot of other work around community supports, building circles of supports, futures planning.
And where are you located? Where's your main office?
Our main office is in Seabrook, Texas, which is where I'm located, but we also have staff in other parts of Houston, as well as in Abilene and in Corpus Christi.
And where did you meet Ricky?
Ricky and I met because one of my staff that was here, was working out of Alvin, Texas, knew Ricky when you were living in the group home. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for a board member for Imagine Enterprises. And she said, well, you need to meet Ricky Broussard. And so that was, I guess about 15 years ago.
And Ricky's a member of your board of directors?
He was a member of the board of directors until he started this business, and we got things rolling along, and so he's had to give more time to his business.
Okay.
So he's involved in a lot of projects that we do, but more as a staff and a paid consultant as opposed to a board member. Okay.
Ricky, now you said that before you lived in your apartment, you live now in Houston in you told me a 3-bedroom apartment?
Yes, sir.
Before that, you lived in a number of facilities in South Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
How many?
Off the top of my head, let me see if I can remember. I would say about roughly.
It was 5.
5, yeah.
Not roughly, but exactly 5, right?
Yeah, it was 5.
Yeah. Good memories from all of those?
Yes and no.
Okay,
yes,
some good, some bad.
Yes.
I guess that's the way people would describe any place they might have lived for a while.
Yes, sir.
You started your business in 2005.
Yes, sir.
What prompted you to start a business?
Actually, what really prompted me to, start my own business was Noreen and Miss Betty Ketchum, and who Miss Betty is. She's the executive director of the Arc of Gulf Coast in Alvin, Texas, and also Miss Virginia. Miss Virginia is, as well as Miss Betty and Noreen, they're advocates, and so one day we were having a forum. We were having a lot of the legislators and judges from the county to come down from Austin, and when I really got involved was they asked me to come to the forum, and at the forum, I said, do I have to speak? And Miss Virginia said yes. And so ever since then, I just been going off like talking all over. And Austin's my second home away from home. I go to Austin a lot to talk to the legislators about self-determination or just issues for people with disabilities.
So you work as a consultant then for different organizations?
Yes, sir.
And they pay for your travel and expenses and probably pay you a consultant fee, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And you talk about things that you have personal experience with.
Yes, sir.
And those things would be living in the community and having work and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And it's the principles of self-determination, and the principles are freedom, authority, responsibility, and support and confirmation. And I'll just go through two of them real quick. And the most important thing is to me is the freedom to have who I want to come in my home and who I want to touch my body, because in all the facilities that I lived in, you know, I couldn't tell the staff, okay, I don't want you to touch my body today, because they're hired by the agency, not by me. So and that's the most important thing, is to say who I want to touch my body, because like Noreen, she can say to her husband, okay, I don't want you to touch my body today. But there's a lot of people with disabilities, excluding me, that have a difficult time speaking, or they have to use communication boards. Like myself, I can say, okay, finally I can say, all right, I don't want to take a shower today, so I'll take one tomorrow. But there's a lot of individuals that live in facilities like I lived in, that they don't have that choice, because they're hired by the agency, not by the individual.
And the privacy issue is important for you too. I mean, when you lived in the institutions, you had no privacy, right?
True. Yes.
Anybody could come in at any time.
You're right about that. Especially when it was time to take a shower or whatever. And when it's time to take a shower or whatever, that's when you should have the privacy or whatever. But when you're living in large facilities like that, you don't have that much privacy.
But Ricky, why were you living in the large facilities to start with?
Because me and my family, or we didn't know anything about the group homes or anything like that, because when I started living in the facilities, there were no group homes around at that time.
I mean, that was a long time ago, right?
Right.
How many years ago was that, probably?
Oh wow,
30 years?
5 years.
31 is when you, yeah.
Yeah, 31. I'm sorry.
First
It was
facility.
it was 31, and actually the group home in Alvin, it's Tollbray Group Home, and that's a 6-bed group home, and that's my first small facility that I lived in, because Tollbray only holds 3 men and 3 women, and we all have our own room.
Okay, so you began to experience that kind of privacy and, as you called it, self-determination when you moved into that group home.
Yes, sir.
That seemed like a transition between the larger facilities and the community.
Yes, sir.
So you were going to tell us about 2 of the principles of self-determination. The first one had to do with the privacy and who touches your body and so on.
And the other one, the very most important one, would be confirmation, is being respected and also listened to, because I used to sit on the MHMR board up there in Austin, And there were times that, because they needed someone with a disability to be on that committee, and there would be times that they would ask us questions, and we would have to hurry up and give them an answer. And there were times that I thought that I wasn't being listened to and also being respected.
So you were on the board,
Yes, sir.
and some of the people on the board just carried on the conversation without even giving you long enough to conceive and to explicate or give the answer.
Yes, sir.
That would be frustrating.
Yeah, that is frustrating. So what I always tell people when I'm giving presentations is always listen to the person and also respect the person also, because that's the important thing.
And that's the part of the way you define self-determination.
Yes, sir.
How do you view self-determination in the context of independent living? Are they the same?
I would say they would. It would be almost hand in hand, because long as we have the support and all of that, we can live in a community just like anyone else.
During the time that you lived in facilities and in the group homes, you must have met a lot of other people who were eager to be living in the community and more independent, right?
Yes, sir.
Have most of those people graduated to the community now, or many of them are still stuck?
There's a lot of my friends that they're living on their own, or they're living with a foster family or a family member. But there's still a lot of people that live in large facilities that they would love to be in a community just like I am.
Well, I mean, I think that's an important point.
Mm-hmm.
You have a choice. If
Yes.
you wanted to live in an institution, you could, right?
Yes.
But you prefer to live in the community.
Yes, sir.
The problem is that when you're living in the institution and you want to live in the community, you can't necessarily go there.
That's true.
You can make the choice, but still be stuck.
Right. That's true.
That happened to you?
Yes, sir. Because I had to be put on what we're calling it now is the interest list.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it's really a waiting list, isn't it?
right.
If you're the
Okay,
person waiting, it's still a waiting list.
I want to talk about that waiting list a little bit after we take a break here. We're going to take a break from our show. I hope you all will stay tuned. We'll be right back with more from Ricky Broussard and Noreen Chalowhey on Focus on Ability. Stay tuned, please.
What does self-determination mean to you?
That's a good, hard question.
Be more independent and to set goals.
It means I live on my own. I'm very independent. I'm able to count money pretty good.
Dress myself, shower myself, style my hair by myself.
To make goals for myself, to have my own house and my own business out of my own house.
Speak up for my rights, speak up for my need.
you have the freedom.
It'll be wonderful.
Being able to do things on your own, by yourself, with nobody telling you when to do them, what to do, and how to do it.
To controlling your own destiny.
Learning to get on their own and actually learn to discover how to be on their own.
Welcome back to Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden, your host, and we're here today with Noreen Chalowhey from Imagine Enterprises and Ricky Broussard from Get a Life. And Ricky, as we took our break there, we were talking about moving out of a halfway house or a group home into the community. You finally had the opportunity to do that because your name filtered itself to the top of the waiting list or the wish list or whatever you want to call it. When you did that, did you have any kind of a celebration or?
Actually, yes, I did. What I did was I invited my coworkers and my friends and my family members, and we all celebrated it and stuff like that.
We called it an emancipation party.
Yeah, there we go.
So it was fun.
It was fun.
You have photos?
Of my apartment.
Of your party.
We have lots of photos.
Yeah.
We'll have to share those with
Yeah,
you.
we'll get them to you so you can put them on the internet.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. Thanks a lot for that. Now, Noreen, Ricky is an example of a lot of people in our state who are perfectly capable of living in the community. I mean, Ricky proves that every day. And yet we're caring for them or providing them support and assistance in institutional kinds of settings. I mean, whether it's a halfway house or not, if people have no privacy and no control over who's touching their bodies and so on, that's
You're
an
still
odd
stuck.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah, Texas has some of the largest institutions in the nation, and unfortunately, and some of those are state operated and some of those are private operated. And but you're right, they're Medicaid funded, and we have the process called the Medicaid waiver. There's, I think, 9 different Medicaid waivers in Texas that allow people to get services and supports in the community, similar to what Ricky's describing, as opposed to having to be in an institution in order to survive from day to
Well,
day.
I mean, that's a good thing that we have those waivers, but the reality is these are, like it says, waivers. They're like demonstrations. That's not the way the government sets it up. And it's not just the state of Texas, but it's the federal government that starts out with these funds that are reserved for Medicaid. And this is, to me, sort of silly, and they get the horse backwards or the cart before the horse or something like that. I mean, it seems to me that we should be promoting life in the community, and if somebody proves they can't live in the community or they prefer to live in a more structured setting, then okay, we'll provide them that assistance. But the way we've got it, people get stuck inside these places and lose some of their independent living skills before they have the chance to practice them.
Yeah, and the waiting list itself in Texas, because so many people want to stay in the community, is as much as 100,000 people in Texas waiting to get.
No. Am I missing a zero here? You said 100,000 people.
Correct.
In Texas are living in institutions and want to live in the community, and we don't have the funds to support them doing so?
The people on the waiting list is both people in the community who have little or no support at all, and so they're on the waiting list, and that's the majority of the 100,000 people on waiting lists for Medicaid waiver services.
Okay, and they
to
need,
prevent them from going into institutions.
Right, they just need somebody to come to their house once or twice a day to help them get dressed or undressed or bathed or something.
Yeah, getting the personal supports or getting the supervision and training if they have the behavioral or speech or any kind of physical needs. So there's a variety of things.
If they don't get that, they're going to go to the emergency room because they're not well cared for. They can't care for themselves. They need help. And go to the hospital and eventually wind up inside some kind of a facility.
Right. Or if the family is caring for them, which is the majority of the situation, is the family runs out of resources, whether it's their private insurance for help or just their own emotional stability, and so the family's up against the wall, and so they have to make a choice.
I mean, the crazy thing about this is that we will use tax dollars to pay a nursing home as much as $80,000 a year to care for somebody in a situation that the person doesn't need to be or want to be cared for, and yet that same person given a modicum of assistance in the community, maybe somebody to live with them or to help them on an occasional basis during the day, the cost of that would be maybe a pittance, a fourth, $20,000 a year or $15,000 or less.
Yeah.
And yet we it's automatic. If they're going to live in a nursing home, we pay. If they would prefer to live in the community and they have the ability to do so, that's not automatic. You go on a waiting list.
Right, and what you lose then is all the natural support connections to the community. And so the person with a disability or the elderly person who could have had that support in the community loses all those natural connections. And at the same time, the community loses that person. We lose that person because it becomes disconnected. The walls are permanent.
Ricky, that doesn't make sense, does it?
No, sir, it doesn't make no sense. And like we were saying earlier, because even though that individual or whoever it is, even though that they might use a walker or a wheelchair, and if they can find an accessible apartment to let them live on their own, or if they can have, because all we need is the support and the people that they trust and the people that they're willing to work with that person or whoever it is. If they're willing to work with that person, that's great. But
and you have a business, right?
Yes, sir.
You're earning money. Someday you're going to earn enough money to pay taxes. Maybe you already do.
Actually, right now, I pay taxes right now.
Well, and the chances of you being able to do that if you were living in an institution, how's those chances?
It would. I wouldn't have no chance at all if I was living in a large facility.
All right. Really, this is a kind of an interesting case study. But again, Ricky, you realize you're an example of a lot of people who are still frustrated because they don't have the opportunity to live in the community, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
You probably know some of those people personally.
I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people. Actually all over Texas, because actually I travel a lot, and I meet parents that have individuals that have disabilities, and they're like, my daughter cannot do that, and I tell them, yes, they can do that, long as you're there to support them and help them with what they need, they can do it.
Ricky, what is your disability?
My disability is cerebral palsy.
And because you had cerebral palsy when you were a child, you weren't able, for a lot of reasons, to get into the public schools, right?
Right.
And you started actually going to school. How old were you when?
Actually, I started going to school when my first facility school was, I would say, 10 years old.
10 years old.
Yes, sir.
And that was probably good for you to be able to go to school, right?
Right.
Do you still feel challenged by the kinds of issues that a lack of early schooling might have created?
Mm-hmm. I have to deal with challenges every day, and there's a lot of people that ask me, even people that I just meet, they say, how do I do it? The only way I do it is with the support, and as long as I have the desire and I have the support behind me, that's the only way I can do it.
Ricky, if somebody wants to get in touch with you to get some advice from you, can they do that?
Yes, sir. They can reach me by email, and I just got my email changed. Let me see if I can remember. Or actually, they can reach me at rickyinnachair@swbell.net, or they can call me at my office, and my office number is 281-388-1161, or they can reach me on my cell at 281-770-4599.
And you're available to make presentations? I mean, that's your business number, so they can hire you to come and make a speech or provide some consultation?
And
yes, sir.
And you have your own website, Get a Life in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's
the website is called Get a Life in Texas.
Yes, sir.
Just type that in Google and you can find it.
Yes, sir.
Ricky uses the computer a lot, right?
Yes, sir. And the way I use my computer, I have a dragging dictate.
Okay. So you talk to the computer and it types what you want to say. You told me before that you met some of your old friends who you grew up with. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, you were in these schools, and you were able to find some of those people. How did you find them?
And the way I found them was on Facebook.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I found a lot of my old friends that way too.
Yeah.
Noreen, the challenges that Ricky has obviously faced and those he faces every day are clearly exemplary. Your organization, Imagine Enterprises, probably works with a lot of folks.
We do, and both in the employment piece, and you asked at one point, how did you start your business? And when Ricky first was on our board, he was actually working in a sheltered workshop. So we had the opportunity to work with a grant through the Council for Developmental Disabilities. They were asking us to put together training on self-determination. And as Ricky talked about, he likes to tell stories and he likes to talk. And his ability to give a message was clear, and so that was kind of the launching into his employment was that self-determination project. And Get a Life in Texas emerged because it was better for Ricky to have a self-employment initiative for reasons of working with Social Security and the ICFMR facility, because he hasn't moved out of the group home yet, than it was for him to be an employee. So that's why we went with self-employment.
If people want to get in touch with you, Noreen, how do they reach Imagine Enterprises?
ImagineEnterprises.com is the easiest way, through our website.
Phone number?
281-474-7887.
Okay. Ricky, we're ending the program now. Any final word for people who might be watching who are still on the waiting list?
Don't give up because the legislators they're getting them off the waiting list as fast as they can.
Okay, so people are beginning to understand. The Texas legislature is beginning to take some action. That's good news.
Right.
I want to thank all of you for watching Focus on Abilities today. This has been a program about self-determination. I think you've heard the answer from Ricky and from Noreen. Self-determination is really about making decisions that affect your own life and being in control of your own life. We'll have more programs like this on Focus on Abilities. I appreciate you all watching. I'm Lex Frieden, thanks to the HTV, and we'll see you next time on Focus on Abilities.